All right, happy Wednesday. I thought it was Thursday today, but it is actually Wednesday. And we are here for our last show of 2023, leading into 2024. It's been quite a ride so far, man. How's it? How's your week been? I know you had a good Christmas, but how's your week been?
Christmas was good. Spent time with the family, and then pretty much Tuesday just like jumped right into right into things. So I got uh, a listing and a buyer under contract last week. So I had uh, inspections yesterday for one,
Cool.
and then I've got inspections for another tomorrow. And the buyers for yesterday, their house was for so they're selling and buying, and then I had
Okay.
another buyer. So yeah, it worked. It's we'll get into that a little bit later,
Mhm.
but just kind of perception and how things are going. But yeah, it seems to be things seem to be looking up. There are some things that we've been talking about from the beginning that are still relevant today, and we'll get into that in that segment too. How's your week been?
A little busy today, which is great. I've been working with this guy for quite a while. He's he's trying to get W-2 income to me. He was a previous self-employed, and he just he took down too much. He just had too much. What you call it? He had too many deductions, not enough income. So he's switching his income from self-employed to W-2 so he can count more of that income. But it's taken a while, so we'll just see how it goes. And yeah, man. And we actually, oddly enough, I have a client in Virginia who's trying to move from Virginia over to the West Side, so which is a little different for what I'm used to. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes, man. But yeah, just trying to keep busy here and prepare for 2024, which I think is essentially what this show's for today. So
Yeah, our last show of 2023. So we're diving right in with some kind of I guess our forecast for 2024.
yeah, and just kind of a summary too of what we kind of did with the show and how it's all worked out. And yeah, I'm pretty excited, man, for sure. Let me just see here. Real quick, I just want to say thanks to the 3 lives so far that I started a little later because I figured, well, I had some stuff to take care of, and then perhaps we could get some more people watching the show with a later time. But just a real quick update with the market today and lately. We've been talking a lot of positive stuff with the market. And let's see here how the stocks do today. So the Dow's up a cool 100 points, which is great, for your 401ks and all that. S&P's up a tick, almost at 4,800, which is my prediction wasn't quite that high, but my hope was a little bit lower so it could get some buy opportunities and kind of soften the market. But this
It,
this market
it
just
got
keeps
down to
charging.
like 42, somewhere around 4,200.
4183 was the low from since we started this show. So it got close to where I wanted it to be. However, when that happened, everything kind of settled down. So I guess my floor was a little too negative, which is great. That's good for your 401k holders and people that are actually looking at stocks. And then it comes to the Nasdaq's at 24.6. Uh, Something to gauge. Oil had a little bit of a bump this past couple weeks. It was at 69 at one point, now it's 74. And crypto, man, just keeps chugging along, man. It's a really fascinating asset segment that I watch, but don't honestly I don't invest in it just because I just too many segments to take care of. But man, to all you crypto bros and you NFT nerds out there, congrats, man. This was definitely a big performance into the green this year. So congrats to all you guys. And what's up, Brian? Thanks for coming in, man. It's good to see you. Um, do you ever get clients that inquire about using Bitcoin, or like to say, "Oh yeah, I got a bunch of like Ethereum or Bitcoin or NFTs and I want to buy a house." Do you ever get that type of client?
No, that's I think for us here in South Carolina, that's a little bit too much like unicorns and Bigfoot and all that
Bigfoot.
stuff. It's like I don't know. It might be real and it might not. I don't know,
I
but I'm
know.
I'm just gonna stay away.
Yeah. Yeah. On shows that I've hosted and been part of, I've never been like 100% against it, but I'm definitely like, it doesn't make sense to my core as an investor and the knowledge that I have. But it's just that, and then I don't want to put enough time to research it. And so like with this show, I've always explained, outright buying Bitcoin and all that isn't really like my forte, but you can still make money in the sectors or the companies that fuel that economy, the shovels, essentially. And all that. I don't really have a lot of news today, so I guess I'll just jump into the slides and then send off everyone into 2024. But yeah, kind of like I wanted to really show the purpose of the show, and what hopefully we'll get more people to watch. But I feel like we grew this channel pretty well. 51 subscribers, which is it's not the sexiest topic to talk about, but I feel like the people that do watch our show, I hope you guys get something out of it that at least helps you determine, gosh, I have a house. How can I leverage that into my financial health? Or I want to buy a house. What are things that I need to prepare myself for? Do I need to talk to a realtor first? Do I need to talk to a mortgage person first? Or vice, what have you? What do you think is one of the most important things you can think of to tell the audience as far as like buying or owning a home, and what you can like supplement like your knowledge base? Like, what do you think is like the most important thing? Kind of put you on the spot, but I just thought of it just now.
From the perspective, like if you're preparing to buy a house,
Yeah,
or
yeah. Preparing whether
so
you own one already or don't. Yeah.
for me, it's all the things that when I first got into real estate, it's all the things I thought I didn't have to say. It's like, don't be late on anything. Don't go ahead and buy the living room suite before you have the house,
Mm-hmm.
because you might be living on that in a field somewhere or something. I mean, you got to let's get the place where you're going to put the furniture first.
Yeah.
But I have, I've had people talk about like, well, I'm going to get this $3,000 refrigerator, but it's not going to be delivered until afterwards. And it's like, no, don't buy, no big purchases. Don't make any big purchase. Don't be late. No big purchases, because you don't want to send a red flag up for when you go back and double check, because you'll double check like that last week before closing, just to make sure there's no red flags or anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks, Brian. Thanks, Michael Baker. He's always enjoyed dinner with the wife too, if you catch this on the rewind.
Yeah.
But you're gonna check it again that last week. You're gonna take a look and make sure that, hey, let's make sure nothing changed, or there's no blips or speed bumps along the way. Make sure everything still looks good, and you just don't want anything to derail that purchase.
Yeah.
So is that along the lines of what you were
Yeah.
asking, stuff like that? Yeah, it's just the stuff you don't go buy a car. If you're, let's have let's have those conversations. If you're wondering, then let's have those conversations, and let me be a part of that conversation with you, so we can discuss why it may or may not be a good idea.
Yeah.
And get everybody involved. I would then get the lender involved, and just make sure we're all on the same page with stuff.
Right.
So yeah, it's just those little things that you don't think about. Well, you have to have a car,
Yeah.
but just understand it could derail the process.
Yeah. Which is, presents a lot of headaches for everyone. It's unavoidable, or it's avoidable.
Right.
Sorry.
And just communication. I mean, in general, just communication, all parties keeping in touch. I mean, that's I tell new agents all the time, like, that's the thing that takes a an average agent makes them a great agent is just the communicating with everyone.
Yeah.
You know, if you cancel a showing, let the other agent know. Some people just I've had people just not show up and not call, and I'm like, oh,
Wow.
you know, to me that tells it should be telling that client that they're a paycheck, because they're not that agent's not concerned with, you know, oh, we've got something under contract, so I'm not going to cancel that appointment. I'm just not going to show up. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I build relationships with my clients, and I know you do as well. We, you know, try to maintain a good rapport and, you know, give an honest analysis of things that, you know, an honest analysis of things, whether or not it results in us, you know, being able to make a sale in our respective businesses.
Very cool. I got a good friend. I used to work with this gentleman, Kevin. Kevin, what's going on, man?
Hey, Kevin.
We need to grab a drink soon. This guy is. I used to call him the Don Draper of the company I used to work with, and
Ah,
he's just he's very knowledgeable guy. But
so
he asked, "Do you?"
so drinking at 10 a.m. is that what is
I
that
wish, man. No, we were pretty clean. I just thought he was a
suave, very smooth and
very suave, and yeah, a good dude.
knowledgeable?
Very knowledgeable. Yeah. He
Yeah,
asked, "Do you?"
the old days when you could smoke in the
I
office and,
wish. I
and
really
drink at
wish.
10
Yeah.
and
Yes. Do you think now you're a comedian? Do you think retail sales data for Q4 will be weak? Also, what are your thoughts on the fintech companies that are offering buy now, pay later? I think that the Q4 data will be like, I think the culture's changed as far as how we buy stuff now. Like, I was talking about on a different podcast, like Black Friday was going out like during what do you like Halloween. There wasn't really a sense of urgency for people to buy stuff right away. And a lot of it was done at home. I feel like just around my small circle of friends or people. Um, I think it won't. I think it actually will be. I don't know if it'll beat expectations, but I think it'll definitely meet expectations at least. And and the buy now pay later like kind of culture, I guess you call it now. I definitely do it because psychologically, like, yeah, um, $100 is, it's quite a bit of money, right? But $25 a week or every 2 weeks seems like a lot less. And it definitely prevents me. It definitely, like, I won't buy like four different things for like, $100 each and then do buy now, pay later on each one. But I definitely think it has helped the psychological part, especially in like my industry, of being able to afford or think I can afford. I want to say think I can afford, just to like not overspend, but get things that are required for like big purchases, like for Christmas and whatnot. I did a few things as far as buy now, pay later on just some Christmas gifts because I just wanted it was just more like psychologically. I didn't want to see the money out of my checking account. But yeah, I think it's more. I think especially for like 26, 27-year-old professionals that may have a lot of student debt or just debt in general. I think it's becoming more culture accepted. Um, I hear it even at the checkout counters sometimes that people are asking, "Oh, do you guys have buy now, pay later or PayPal, like for installments and all that?" And and so that's with millennials or quote unquote like Gen Z cusp. But yeah, do you ever use buy now, pay later?
no, I want to feel the effect of my decision. So I
Mm,
usually just like if it's I don't I think not doing that saves me. I'm the other end of the spectrum. Like I want to feel the like if I do this, then I can't do this or what, whatever. So it sets keeps things in check and it sets parameters for me.
yeah. Yeah, and I guess it's just more of a psychological thing, right? I think, well, right now, a firm, I'll use them as an example. Um, a lot of investors were worried that they were gonna be killed by the impending interest rate hikes, right? And that's one of the best. BNLP does not report to FICO. Yeah, it doesn't. It's true. What's weird though is buy now pay later hits your in some cases, like Affirm, for example, they will check your credit report and that does hit your credit report, which is kind of like, I mean, for someone who's not trying to buy a home, it's not that big a deal, but like if you are, that's something to look out for too. And that I wonder if they'll change that. I don't know. Maybe it's just not consistent enough, but anyway, yeah. So as far as like those buy now pay later companies, they've actually, the buy on the dip was definitely a good thing to do. Yeah, Kevin, I've seen it as an inquiry on some credit reports. Um, I don't know if all of the reporting agencies do report on that though. I haven't seen it very often though because I haven't taken a ton of applications. But yeah, anyway, so well, cool,
Great.
Kevin. I'm really glad you're in the chat. We always would just talk, shop and about equities and stuff at the bank, and I'm glad you're here participating. So
Yeah, great
um,
questions and comments. We appreciate you
yeah,
hanging out with us.
he's testing me, man. He's testing all my knowledge. That Kevin guy. um, all right, so topics we're covering today are stocks that we recommended or just talked about necessarily. I never try and really recommend buy it now or buy it here. Just kind of keep people's like engaged. But a lot of these stocks did pretty well, which you'll see next. And then West Coast to East Coast real estate. I picked a little lower end price point for you this week. Tip of the day, and then 2024 rates that will never come back. And real estate, is it still positive? We'll look at that in the later segments too. So again, just want to thank you, Kevin. We're just getting started, man. So yeah, but if you guys could click that like button, subscribe, tell all your friends. We want to keep this going, and I hope you guys enjoy the show today, and I hope you guys have a great new year and all that good stuff.
Yeah, we're doing about every 2 weeks, so that's kind of that's a good sweet spot for us as far as news and everything is concerned.
Right. But if you guys want to do it weekly, just reach out to us. Maybe if you get more people live, it's just better to engage. But 2 weeks is, good as far as information is to share. It's good. So 3 stocks I talked about in the past. Gosh, have we doing this for like 6 or 9 months? I can't remember. 7?
You're putting me on the spot more now than you were with the last question. I think it's
not a
gotta
full
be over.
year.
It's over. No, but it's over 6 months. We've been doing it for longer than 6 months. Yeah,
so probably 7.
Yeah, it's 8 to 9 months, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. So, around that time we've done some we made it pretty consistent, but I usually would talk about 3 different stocks at each show. And again, would never say like buy this now, or like I'm not a Jim Cramer type of guy, but just stocks that I think people should look out for in their portfolios, whether that be whatever portfolio that may be. And these are the results of just a few that I've talked about. Shopify, which I remember you would say you never heard of them, but I'm sure you've used their services before without knowing. They're a company from Canada that deals with e-commerce. So they help out small business to basically handle a lot of their back-end e-commerce stuff, whether that be accepting payments, updating inventory, the whole 9 yards. They're basically a consultant for small business e-commerce.
And it's like a fee-based to have like a consumer website. Like if I've heard like people in the comic book community talk about getting a Shopify account set up so that they can, accept different forms of payment and load things up on their websites instead of trying to sell on the traditional formats like eBay and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's I guess you kind of have to see like to scale, like if it's more beneficial for you to have an eBay account or your own independent one. I would think if you have a lot of volume or just do more local stuff, you probably want to use Shopify. But that doesn't make sense. If you're trying to expand your business like locally but you don't want to use like a third party service, Shopify is more like going vertical integration kind of thing. But yeah, they handle anything e-commerce that website handles. They probably use Shopify. At the time I talked about the stock, it was trading around 51 bucks a share. If you bought or kind of looked at it around the time that I talked about the stock, it's 76 bucks today. So it's a pretty good return. It's not the greatest return, but I remember when I mentioned Shopify, like no one in the chat knew what Shopify was. And that's kind of my goal for like these stocks, to talk about what they do and to talk about how I found out about them, and then just to kind of just, if you're into that wheelhouse, then, it's kind of the research is up to you. But pretty cool, pretty cool return. Um, I would say that, would you buy it now? I don't know. It's, again, I'll leave that up to however you guys feel comfortable going into 2024. People say that the stock market was a little bit overbought after its recent rally, but I think if you're bullish on e-commerce growing or getting back to, um, whatever, I would say keep an eye on it. It might dip a little more going in. There's a little bit of uncertainty going into next year, but overall, good pick. What do you think, man?
Yeah, that's I told everybody the last show that you had receipts, so we're gonna check. We're going to see for ourselves on in this segment.
Cool. Yeah.
But I mean, I've told you this a million times, but I like the fact that you each week you put these in layman's terms,
Yeah.
explaining what the company does, and just kind of, because you go do this on your own and it can be overwhelming. I mean, there's so so much stuff to see.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, you've done a great job of just like explaining what each one does and allowing, like you said, I mean, we allow people to make their own decisions based on, um, based on the types of businesses they like and stuff like that. So
Cool.
I've appreciated it for sure.
All right. Well, cool. Yeah. And then next up, I really just, I feel like I really know this stock as far as how it moves. Restoration Hardware. A gentleman in the Discord said he never heard of Restoration Hardware, and he kind of went down his own rabbit hole, which I thought was pretty cool. Blade Builder Mike in our Discord, he was asking me some questions about this. I was actually very bearish on this stock, but the one thing that holds this stock up is the CEO is one of the best out there, and he does a lot of buybacks. And so, one person asked me, "Oh, would you short the stock?" I'm like, "Well, I wouldn't really recommend shorting anything because that's a little more advanced." However, if you're a dip buyer, I wouldn't be too pressed on buying this around 230 to 245. It actually dipped all the way down to 219. So if you waited till 219, which is really tough to call absolute bottoms on stocks, um, you would have been up almost $100. It's around 304 now. Um, I think with the coupling of the Fed loosening up, tightening, and projections for a couple more rate cuts next year, that really propelled the assumption that Restoration Hardware, that super yuppie furniture company, is going to do pretty well next year. So I don't like to tout my own horn, but if you're watching the show and you bought this stock around 230 to 240, or even wait till 219 and just watched it, you're up a pretty good penny at this point. I would say 304 is a fair price as far as how the stock moves, but depending on stuff, I'll go into the next slides. Yeah, you're up pretty big, man.
Yeah,
So
that was great call on that one. I remember you talking about that one because you spent several days every week there during COVID, just but doing
just
things around the
perusing around.
house and yeah.
Yeah, just perusing around. I always appreciate, so like a lot of these companies that I look into, like if you can actually go into the physical store, like I'll go in them and just get a sense of like, how is the customer service? What technology are they using? Are the is the product like laid out correctly, or is it a unique experience versus your regular, like bargain base? I don't want to say bargain base, like, but like a department furniture store. And it just definitely separates. It's a different feeling. Restoration Hardware. It's not my cup of tea, but it doesn't have to be. I just can kind of get a keen sense of what makes a company successful, right? So
It says something about the higher ups too, that they can they're not directly involved with that store per se, but the culture has
The
trickled
culture.
down
Hmm.
to, to where they adopted. I mean, it's that the Chick-fil-A syndrome where
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever gotten bad service at a Chick-fil-A, and
Hmm.
everybody's nice and they treat me like I'm the only customer, even though there's 20 cars behind me. They don't get rattled. They're just, but that culture is just trickled down, and
Sure.
and so it says something about that company.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, the employees are engaged with you, or they're like excited about the product. How does that not make you excited about the product? Um, that's a great comparison, honestly. Culture wise, culture is very important, right, with these companies. And last but not least, Lululemon. I mean, this company really did well during COVID, right? It dipped quite a bit, after the big run. However, I told people to just watch this stock. This was actually this when I talked about Lululemon, I said it was a riskier buy at the price point it was at. It was like 405 at the time. And it actually dipped down around 370, 373. However, if you were like, Ferd doesn't know what he's talking about. I love Lululemon. I just want to get into the stock. And sometimes that's okay. Or if you wait a little bit more and you're like, 370 seems like a pretty good price point. I keep seeing, people go to yoga class with Lululemon leggings on or backpack, whatever. And it seems to keep hitting, or the store's just packed, which it is around some areas here in Seattle. You're at a 52-week high a week ago at 509 a share. So again, just some things to look out for, and kind of the stuff we do with this show. Um, I'm not saying like, I don't know if we just hit like a good kind of time to look at stocks and start buying, or like recommend looking into stocks. Um, Timing's everything, right? I mean, because like if you bought 50 shares at 405 and then bought 100 shares at 370, uh, and you sell at 509, then you're up almost 100, or a little more than $100, right? But if you bought like 200 shares at 405 or 430, what have you, you're not up as much. So timing's another thing too. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, man?
You did good, and it's that Lululemon is like being in middle school all over again. Like you have to have, if you're not wearing the name brand
Hmm.
that's popular at the time, then you'll never go get coffee with the other people you're working out with. You're not in the inner circle. You've got to have like the best of the best. But
Right.
I think, I mean, I don't know if it was just sheer luck, but I mean, look at all the things you discussed during this segment this year. And still one of my favorite, reflecting on 2023 and the birth of this podcast. My favorite is still the bad CEOs
Oh,
episode. And talking about like, but that's the kind of things you're looking at is, that trickle down effect, that like, hey, if the higher ups know what they're doing, um, that's it's a you look at all that stuff, you consider that it's not just the company and do they sell
mhm.
cool products. Now, what would you say? I'll put you on the spot now.
Yeah.
What would you
Cool.
say about someone who says, "All right, I want to dabble a little bit. I want to, buy some shares and just kind of, what is it a good approach to buy stocks of products that you use? If you're a fan of a particular product or service, or um, if you say like, "Hey, I'm a customer of Lululemon, so I like their product, so maybe I'll invest in their company." What's your thoughts on having that kind of approach?
Um, I would say no, not necessarily. I would say if you're the only customer there, definitely no.
Right.
Right. So if you go into like a Lululemon, you're the only customer there. Oh man, I really love this pair of shorts or whatever. And it's like Saturday at like noon or 2 o'clock. I'd probably say no. Right. But if you are shopping at that store and there's a line out the door, and it's not because there's a sale, it's a regular 2 o'clock on a regular Saturday, then yeah,
Might be
I
something to it then.
yeah, just like comic book collecting, right? Like we all have our favorites, but if I'd be lying if I said, "Oh, I bought that comic book because I know 50 of my other friends love this story, but I hate it, or I just don't care for it, and I want to sell it for XYZ amount of money." I'm going to do that. Kind of saying that would be the approach that I have. So I hope, does that answer your question? I hope it
Yeah,
answers your
yeah,
question. Okay,
yeah.
good.
So it's not just the fact that you may or may not like the company. There's other factors to consider
Uh-huh.
before you invest your money into something.
Yeah. And I'm going to eat a little crow too. I talked about MSTR, MicroStrategy. It's a company that I thought the CEO just took a huge gamble, and I was wrong on the gamble that he took. And so I'll eat some crow. But before I get to the next slide, I just want to show this off.
Was that the Bitcoin guy?
That was the gentleman who, yes, the Bitcoin guy. His company basically had 90%, it's some odd god awful amount invested into Bitcoin, right? So as Bitcoin goes, the company goes. Yeah, I'm eating some crow here.
He looks
However,
like a genius now.
he looks like an absolute genius because I think we talked about him back in June, I want to say, or maybe July.
This is
And
this is your second rebuttal for this guy. Uh this is your second batch of crow, I think, because you had another where you revisited him and said, "Hey, he's actually might be on to something." And
yeah, right. Yeah. Um, but I don't have too much pride. I just, and I mean, he's up 11% today, $66 a share. We were looking at 332 when I was talking some crap about his, CEO style. But I mean, look at that.
he must have watched that episode.
He was like, you know what? I'm gonna call my buddies on Wall Street and tear this guy apart. But motivation, right? Um, and again, like I'm not an expert. I just know what I know. Was it a missed opportunity to like buy stock in the company? Sure, but when and the reason why I thought he was a bad CEO, if you guys don't remember or care, um, he was changing the story of the company, and he was relying on an asset that, I mean, you should just say you're a hedge fund at that point. You shouldn't say you're MicroStrategy. You should say you're a hedge fund. Um, and that's why I thought he was a garbage CEO. Um, kudos to him. He's a great investor. We'll see how
Well,
MicroStrategy
we
does.
might mention him in 6 months or a year, and
Yeah.
things changed.
Yeah.
Maybe your prediction is maybe the jury's still out.
Maybe the jury's still out, but I got a long ways to go based off that call. But and again, it's like it's stuff you just don't. I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending that stock to people, or talking about it. And see, Kevin knows. Agree with you on that, right? I think to add on to what you have to say, and then I'll get into the next slide. You should always formulate a story of why you get into a stock, whether it be their culture coincides with what I believe performs well in a company, or gosh, that product that they're putting 90% of their focus into is really going to change because my nephew or my cousin or my uncle says this is a revolutionary product and that company is worth like 100 billion, or that market segment's like 100 billion. That's so you should always have a reason why you get into a company. And then if that reason changes, you don't necessarily have to sell the stock, but you have to ask yourself, well, is this beneficial to the company, or do I believe in that different road that they're taking? And either you go down that road or you pivot and go the other way, or which means you just sell the stock. And it's okay to take a loss. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes you have to take losses. And is what it is. So my next slide doesn't really talk about stocks, but it talks about a lot of questions that people had. And I think this hits retirement, right? So I'm going to use 3 different scenarios, and we kind of touched about this last week, but this is the reason why I think people should do this. So, 401ks, they're great. Everyone, the second you step into your first job, whether it be 18, 19, or 42, whatever age you are, start doing a 401k only if your company contributes. It's free money, right? My company contributes up to 3%. They'll match up to 3% of what I contribute to my 401k. It's pre-taxed, obviously, and all that. But let's say you took 1,000. What's up, Soupy? Hope you're doing good, man. Soupy's good guy in the community. So let's say, I mean, my 401k is up 8% this year. That's really great. I'm not complaining at all. It's free money. My free money is up 8% along with the contributions I do as well. That's so let's just say like my portfolio, my 401k is at $1,000 at the end of, or $1,000 in contributions. I'm up $80, and that's awesome. It's pretty steady. I don't really have a choice of what stocks I can invest in, but that's okay because I'm up 8% and it is what it is. However, I'll be taxed at a later rate when I withdraw, plus other tax implications, which I won't really get into because I'm not a tax expert. My point is like it's 88% is pretty good, but it's not going to help you really retire probably at the age or at the amount you really want to. Agree? Like 8% a
Right.
year,
Yeah.
right? You're going to have to contribute a lot of money. The second type of account I think people should either look into or think about opening up is an income account. Now, an income account is just generally like, oh, I just want to start trading stocks. So you can go to like E-Trade or Charles Schwab, what have you, and say, I got $1,000, same amount as this mutual fund example. I want to start buying stocks and selling and working my way up and making millions, right? So I used 15% as the short-term gains tax for this example. I don't know what tax bracket people are in, so I'm just going to use 15%. But let's say you watched Brad and Ferd's show, and you're like, dang, Restoration Hardware is pretty cool. I'm going to buy it $230 a share out of the 5 shares I can afford. And you know what? I'm pretty happy with the gains this year. I'm going to sell at 303. So obviously you're doing better than the mutual fund because you're up $365. However, you're hit with a short-term capital gains tax of $54.75. So you're actually taking home $310, $315, which I'm not complaining about, right? I mean, that's still pretty good money.
Right.
But a lot of people in the chat and just in general, like, who wants to pay the tax, man, if you don't have to, right? So last week, people were talking about Roth IRA and the benefits of a Roth IRA. Let's take that same scenario. You have a Roth IRA. Depending on your tax bracket, you can contribute up to $7,500 a year in a Roth IRA. It's after tax, right? So it's just money. Let's say you net $2,000 a month or $2,000 a paycheck, and you're able to put $500 a month or whatever into your Roth IRA, which is really good. And you've got $1,000 in there. Again, same example here. You buy 5 shares of Restoration Hardware, sell it at the end of the year before 2023. Your profit's $365, but there's no capital gains tax. So essentially, you could grow this Roth IRA net and make $1 million net income, and you won't get taxed a single cent on it because it's a retirement account. You don't withdraw on it until you retire, and your withdrawals are normal income. But essentially, you could grow your Roth IRA if you're incredibly savvy to exponentially and not get taxed on it.
Because it's already been taxed.
It's already been taxed, and the point of the Roth IRA is that because you in a normal income account like the one in the middle here, you get taxed on short-term capital gains. But in a Roth IRA, since you're not withdrawing the money, essentially, if you withdraw them, you're going to get hit with tax penalties. But if you're not withdrawing it, or since you're not withdrawing it, you don't get taxed on it because it's a retirement account. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good way. I mean, people always ask like, how I have a 401k, like, but I'm afraid I'm not going to, it's only going to grow 8% a year, but I want to get into kind of like that middle ground of investing. A Roth IRA is the best way to go. If you want an income account just to be like, oh, I want to be able to like spend my earnings, and that's cool too. You can open an income account because there's no penalties of withdrawal. But just if you're more of like, I'm a long-term, not long-term investor, I'm a long-term, not investor like in holding stock or whatever, but like I want to save for retirement, but I want to be active in investing and retire earlier, just have a nice nest egg when I retire. Man, save, like don't get a latte every week or every day, and maybe don't splurge on that T-bone steak or that tomahawk steak every month, and put some money towards a Roth IRA and start either watching our show, reading Barron's magazine every Saturday, and start investing, man. I mean, like it's a great tool to help you retire. I think it's really good stuff. So anyway, my little tidbit for 2023.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Okay. Next slide. All right. So West Coast real estate. I got doing some city living on the cheap here. I found this 300 square foot studio in Seattle. HOAs are $245 a month. And this is actually like the other side of downtown. There's Interstate 5 is our freeway, and it's separated. I think it's like a block down from where this condo is, but it's within walking distance to downtown, literally 5 minutes downhill. And I thought that's just kind of like a cool little studio for someone who's maybe not trying to spend a ton of money, but they want to be close to downtown and all the amenities. I don't think there's a parking garage in this place, but I mean, if you're living 5 minutes away from downtown, like what do you need a car for?
Yeah,
really?
you may not even need your own transportation.
Yeah.
Get the full experience.
Yeah, exactly. There's a place in Arizona that's actually pitching this idea of carless, a carless city. So essentially, they're making a tiny town where everything is accessible within 10-minute walking distance. So your grocery store, cafes, coffee shops, all of it. And they're not allowed. There's no parking garages in this area. There's mass transportation like Ubers and stuff, but it's basically to refrain you from buying a car and picking up traffic. Do you guys have like weird projects like that going on in South Carolina?
No, although we're starting to see stuff crop up where a lot more like downtown living. I was down Main Street in Columbia a couple weeks ago, and I parked in a parking garage, but just walking around, I'm like, man, you could really, it's kind of self-sustaining if you live in that area. And there's some really cool, like I was an art student, so I noticed like the architecture of the buildings and how they like the exterior is really unchanged, but they've converted the upper levels to like living spaces and have little balconies and stuff. And I was like, it's really neat to have that. It gives we're not a big city, but it gives it kind of that big city feel, living right where everything. I'm going to run downstairs and grab something to eat, that kind of thing. So I like that idea. And that would be great for, if you're fresh out of college and moving out that way for, for a job or something. That's perfect.
Does a 250 HOA for a 300 square feet studio freak you out?
No, because the one I'm going to show you is more than that.
Okay.
Not at all. I would be curious what it covers though, because this one, I think once you start crunching, the HOA on these things always freak people out. But when you start going over and looking at what it covers, it's like, wait, actually, if I had to pay for that service, then it would be a lot more than that. So I think I'm thinking they're probably not offering a lot. They probably have like each floor has a trash chute or something where you can take your trash and stuff.
Yeah.
and some of them may include like your um, some of your utilities, if not all of your utility. They might have like water and sewer since it's a large building,
Right. Yeah.
stuff like that. So you start breaking that down. What you would be paying, it could be a lot higher. I think that's very reasonable, actually.
Yeah, and sometimes that's there's walls in coverage and provided in the insurance. It's not just for the exterior, so that's another thing to like look into if you're buying a condo. Um, what's the other thing I wanted to mention for people that are interested in buying condos? Um, yeah, like if you are buying an HOA or if you are curious of like what the HOA covers, I think the first question to always ask when it comes to like a mortgage broker like myself is ask if there's walls in coverage, because that requires less insurance for you to cover the home. Walls in coverage, and Brad, you probably know this already too, is it covers anything within the unit itself versus just the exterior of the unit. And then another thing too, because I think this relieves people when they're buying a condo. I always tell them we do like a checklist, and that checklist has to adhere to investor requirements. And one of the requirements it talks about is one, how many of the units are occupied by actual primary homeowners. You want to have like a very strong mix, like 80% to 75% at least of primary homeowners living in the condo itself. You don't want a bunch of renters in there because it's just going to be an apartment essentially, right? And then the other thing too is there's a certain amount of reserves that each condo association has to have. And if they don't have a certain requirement, and that's dependent on just a lot of certain factors I don't want to really go into, we'll know that right away. And at that point, you can walk away from the deal. One more thing, and then I'll go to the next slide. If there are a lot of delinquent payers of HOA in your unit or in that building, you don't want to be part of that. And you'll know ahead of time as well. Like, sure, there may be like one or two like deadbeats like that live in the HOA, but if there's like 10 or 15, no, man, that's not fair to you. And more specifically, no lender's going to allow that. So anyway, there's other things that we can get into, but anyway.
Yeah, make sure you share that. Yeah, you want to know when you're looking. A lot of people will see the price and not notice the HOA, but just remember, I mean, that's another $245 a month you're on the hook for, and it's not escrowed. So that's you're probably going to pay that like every quarter, or probably quarterly. It might be the lowest they'll do. So you've got just be aware that you've got to you've got to account for that. So it's not just can you afford that mortgage, but also that $245 a month.
Yeah.
This was pretty cool though.
Oh,
so this is like walking distance to Williams-Brice Stadium, which is the home of the University of South Carolina Fighting Gamecocks. A lot of people use this just as their tailgating place. So $239,500, condo near USC, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. This one's 1,275 square feet. Now the HOA fee here is $489, but I was able to locate the services that includes. So cable TV, clubhouse, this beautiful pool with an outdoor grill and all that stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Common area maintenance, exterior maintenance of the building. So they're going to pressure wash it and make sure that's taken care of. Green areas, landscaping, the pool itself, and your membership is included. You got security because it's gated. So that's a major plus to me. And then sewer, trash, and water. So cool. Some of the utilities are covered. So you start breaking it down. I mean, cable, you could spend $150 of that on cable bill. So yeah, take a look at that and see. But this was a really nice shot of looks like a little hot tub over there too. So but it's kind of neat because it's in the middle of the structure.
Yeah.
So it's a courtyard, and it's just the pool's in the middle there, and all these have balconies and stuff out out there. But it's a lot of people just have these just to tailgate before they go to the games.
That's really cool compared to what I showed you. Because I love the courtyard setting because it's more of a community, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone's kind of a forced community. It's lower levels, right? It's wider. And what's funny too is you get, what is that, through 4 times as much, or like 3 times as much square footage as the Seattle condo that I showed, and it's an
The
extra.
shoebox for 250,000.
I know, yeah. The layout was a little better than like what I was like 300 square feet. This is gonna be a tough one, but the layout wasn't too bad. You just get one of those what do you call it? One of those beds that you fold up into the wall and like
Yeah,
you
you've got a
go.
desk under the bed or something. You got to utilize every square inch of the house
Yeah,
or
yeah,
the
exactly.
apartment.
Yeah.
But the locate, I mean, it's really, you're not really entertain. Like you could entertain people here.
Mhm.
There, it's 250 is a far cry from what you would pay to live in the area if you were
Sure.
buying a residential, single family residence. So there's each has its own maybe drawbacks and benefits. But
No,
I
love it.
really like this photo, and it's a neat place. I've been there. I've been and I've shown the units to people before.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so it's a neat spot.
Well, cool. We're just ripping through today's slides today. Again, I just want to thank everyone. We got 7 live so far, and my good friend Kevin is joining the chat today. And Soupy, it's good to see you, man. I hope all is well with you, my friend in Arizona. But yeah, I don't know, Soupy, if you're still in the chat, but yeah, check those out. I'm really curious of like what area of, like, they said it's near like Phoenix. I know that's a really broad description, but yeah, this new concept. It's basically, they call like a real estate startup company is starting it, but like the concept is you get it's kind of cool. So you live in this area and you get, I think they give like a stipend or like $10 a month to you, or a week or something, to use on Uber credits. And they're partnering with all these like kind of not fintech, but just tech companies. I think Amazon Fresh is going to try and do like their Amazon grocery stores where you just go in and you walk out with having to talk to
They
anybody.
could do like farmers market every week or something really
Yeah,
cool like that, to where you
yeah,
don't have to go. And yeah, it could that could take off. I could see that. I could see that happening.
yeah. At first, I was like, "Oh man, I don't know about that," and then I was like, "Well, I lived in Capitol Hill, which is like where Nirvana got started, basically." And I mean, I had a car, but I really didn't need it. And there's everyone I knew didn't have a car. Like, if you had a car, it's like, whoa, that's really weird. You have a car. So, but like the thing with Seattle, it would probably work here for as far as like people being into it, but weather-wise, like, man, when it rained, it poured. Like, it pours here. So you just don't want to go outside. But yeah, I just thought it was a really cool concept. And yeah, anyway, so
Yeah,
this
Soupy's going to report back to us and
okay, cool.
let
The
us know.
So the only thing I saw about the taxes, they weren't showing off like condos to buy. For right now, it's just apartments, and they range from like 1,200 to like 2,500. But I don't know. I think they're going to introduce like condos if it gets going, but for now, it's just they want to get people in there and then expand kind of like um the reach or whatever. I gotta think that though, like, if you're having everything within a 10-minute walk, like, you really have to be smart about where you're going to put people living and expanding and what have you. Um, I thought, but yeah, kind of a really cool
It
concept.
would be cool if there was some tax benefit to being a part of
Right,
something like that.
right. And it's going to employ a lot of people, I assume too. If people like us, or people that don't want to deal with the rain anymore are like, cool, I want to live amongst like all of having to deal with a car. It's a huge savings too. So
As much as we pump up these ideas and companies and stuff, I'm anticipating us being sponsored by at least one, if not more, companies in 2024. That's our
Right.
goal there, Ferd, is to
To
come
get
on, companies, step up. We
yeah.
talk, we if we like you, you're in our corner, so you should be stepping up and helping us out with
seriously.
some products or something,
Either that or I'll get subpoenaed by MicroStrategy's CEO about like slander or something. But
cease and desist.
you cease and desist and all that stuff. But hey,
Keep my
man,
name out of your mouth.
Yeah. What bad? Any news is good news, right? So
yeah, that's publicity, man. We'll do like, if that happens, we'll do like some fake press releases where Sunset to South served cease and desist from major tech company or something, and then we'll have more subscribers. That we'll have to go back to weekly for sure. Then.
Oh yeah, we'll do daily lives.
Updates. I'll quit my job at that point. Yeah. This will be self-sustaining then.
I know. So Soupy, he's on it, man. There's a no car community in Tempe, which is where ASU is apparently. Cool.
Well, makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Thank you.
And check this. Yeah, okay. So I was run on the stipend. You get 15% off Lyft and free rides on the Metro.
Nice.
Really
dude.
Cool. Okay.
Thanks for popping in, man. Yeah, you've enlightened us a bit, so we appreciate it.
It struck me as like a great idea because I was thinking about it the other day, like real estate, in my opinion, we're such a tech savvy like area here in Seattle, but real estate doesn't really like impress me. Like the technology of real estate, like the concept of like getting people into places is like, but the actual like city planning or anything like that just doesn't really impress me. But that did. I thought that was pretty cool. And studios are okay. 3-bedroom, 3,200. That's not bad for a 3-bedroom. And if you don't have a car or car maintenance, I mean, taking care of cars is expensive. I guess you have to think of it that way too. Like, oh, I'm paying $3,000 in rent, but I don't have a car to worry about. And I have.
Well, and if you're a student, then you've got parking passes and you've got to account for a certain amount of money each month to just park your vehicle if you're driving to campus. So you've alleviated that headache. And if you're anything like me, when I was in college, I had 2 cars booted while I was in college because I didn't pay parking tickets. So, shout out to Savannah, Georgia, public safety down there for. I hope you enjoyed my cash. So
that's a cool place by SC. I'm in. All right.
Come on down.
Come on down. Yeah, Kevin's I think he's over on the east side now. When I say by east side, kind of near Bellevue area, which is kind of where Microsoft is. Cool single or married without kids for sure. Yeah. It definitely struck me as like either retirement, because it's in Arizona, or I just want to try out something new and I don't really want to like commit myself to. It was a really cool concept. But man, yeah, Soupy's right on it, man. That's really cool.
Thanks, bud.
I thought of this because of just a lot of things, everyone anticipates the end of 2023 and then you go into tax season and all that. Check your benefits, your beneficiaries. I'm sorry. And this is just with the assumption that you have property to sell, whether that be a buttload of comic books or a bunch of video games that are worth money, or a 401k or a Roth IRA or an investment account, insurance policy, what have you. I've updated all of mine, and I did that about a month ago just because I had a lot of stuff going on, but not to be morbid or anything, but you just never, the one thing you can't predict is your mortality, right? So if you do care about that or just don't want it complicated for the people that you leave, take 10 seconds, look at all your beneficiaries. If you got married, it's still a good idea, I think, to put who you want to. It's not so much like the law, it's more so like how the heck they're going to contact your beneficiaries if they don't know who you, if you don't have any listed. I know a lot of people don't have any listed, or you haven't updated because I don't know, you got divorced or something like that, or you don't like that nephew anymore or something like that. Hopefully it's not that way, but anyway, oh, what are HOAs again?
Four eighty
For
five for the one that I shared,
oh,
and
okay,
that included, like, if that's the one you're talking about, Kevin,
yeah.
it was $485 a month, but it included cable, water, sewer.
What are the taxes on it? Did you remember?
I
Can you estimate?
I didn't
Estimate?
dig that deep, but I mean, it's probably 1,500 a year, 2,000 a year, maybe.
Oh my gosh, that's a great deal. That's really
Well, just
good.
based on that home
Yeah,
price, that's probably about, yeah,
yeah,
probably somewhere around there.
and being a condo, right, and all that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, but it does include a lot of utilities, which is nice, and you
it
got the
really
pool.
is.
I know a lot of people there. Uh, one of my past clients, who's also a friend, his dad has a place there. He lives in upstate South Carolina and
Mm,
has a place here for the games. And they came down and they're like, "Hey, if you're," he hit me up and he was like, "Hey, man, if you don't have anything going on, come on out. We're gonna hang out by the pool at the it's called the Gates."
the
Um,
gates.
yeah, and he said we're gonna hang out by the pool if you got some time. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
nice. It's if you don't have one, it's good to know people that have one for sure. Just
right.
have some beverages and hang out by the pool, and it's nice and sunny here. There's a lot of the months are pool months here in South Carolina.
Ugh.
It's very nice.
I bet. Um, so yeah, so I just some I didn't say like will here. Uh, I don't think I'm at that age to worry about that really, and I think that won't be a big deal. But I just thought of it as because like my wife was asking like, well, we're married. Like something happens to you, like I get all your stuff. I'm like, yeah, but where name all the accounts that I have, like as far as companies that I have accounts at. She's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, so it's gonna take, it'd be hard for like you to,
You're
and instead of
probably
them
not.
just sending you a check or like, whom whatever, that way at least like what companies I have stuff at. It's not a ton, but it's just
You
it's
could have
easier.
somebody different named on it, and you want it to switch it to her. Or
Yeah.
the thing that I see that's the biggest headache and why it's important to do this is husband is the only name on the deed for a house, and he passes away. Um, yeah, it's the wife would be the beneficiary, but it has to go through probate.
Hmm.
So then it's tied up in a court process, red tape. Yeah, she's entitled to it, but it takes a lot of time to get through probate and make all that right. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
do them a favor ahead of time, and definitely that's great advice.
Yeah. And it's do this, I just thought of this just now because I just got married in July and my dad left to the Philippines and all that. But, if you already have done it and you're good, then like I guess you're okay. But if you do if you do set up new 401ks or sorry, new Roth IRAs and all that, just make sure that that's all correct too. Because sometimes you can skip that section and not have any beneficiaries and you're going to get like emails, who are your beneficiaries, um and sometimes it's sensitive information you need to get for beneficiaries like a social security number and all that, but you can always preface that as like, if you don't feel comfortable giving me your social security number, um just type it in here for me. Or like, well, if you don't get if one beneficiary, like if one nephew's not gonna give it to me, I'll just give it to the other one because I can't put you on there. um it's all whatever you're comfortable with. So anyway, sage advice.
Yeah, great point.
All right, Brad, take it away.
All right, a couple of news items that I wanted to share, and this is kind of reflecting on 2023 and as we move into 2024. So the top 10 most popular markets on Zillow for maybe that's supposed to be for 2023. And I was like, all right, well, how do they determine this? So the most popular market among Zillow surfers this year.
Hmm.
So a lot of people I talk to, they'll sit in bed, put the kids down, they get ready for bed, get in bed, and they'll grab their iPad or their laptop and they'll just look at houses. And
Hmm.
these are the top 10 markets that were searched on Zillow in 2023.
Wow.
So Westchester, Pennsylvania. A lot of these are all of these are up north, which is a little bit surprising. But Westchester, Pennsylvania, Nashua, New Hampshire, Manchester, New Hampshire, Weathersfield, Connecticut, West Hartford, Connecticut, Stowe, Ohio. I'm not familiar with where that is. Middletown, Connecticut, Twinsburg, Ohio, Newington, Connecticut, and Concord, New Hampshire. So I don't know what that's interesting to me because I don't know. I'd like to know a little more information about it, but I thought it was interesting that, well, one, that Zillow is tracking, as we're looking in our downtime, Zillow is definitely keeping track of what we're looking at and processing and using that data to report stuff like this. So these were the most surfed cities, Zillow by Zillow surfers, most viewed markets by Zillow surfers this year.
Are you familiar with any of these like towns at all?
I've heard of West Hartford, Connecticut. But I mean, no, none of these others were. Stowe, Ohio. I have no idea where that is. So I'm curious. I'd like to know a little bit more about it, but I just thought it was interesting that more so from the perspective of like they're watching. So if you want your city to pop up, search for homes more on Zillow next year. But I just thought it was interesting and it kind of really well that really kind of contradicts, I think, what I've seen as far as where we've looked at lists of where people are moving to, and it's more like Southwest or Southern areas, it seems like. So this would kind of contradict some of that. So it doesn't necessarily mean anything other than the fact that people who are looking on Zillow and surfing for homes, surfing Zillow for homes, are checking. It could be anything. It could be for maybe they're looking for rentals in the area because they're visiting for the holidays or whatever. It could be any reason behind it. I don't know that there's a mass exodus of people looking. Most of the people in Connecticut are looking to sell their snowblower and move somewhere where it doesn't snow as much.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was really interesting though.
One more question for you. Because like I think of it, I look at this list and I think because I mean, what are the 1 and 2 reasons why I've done a refinance or done a purchase for someone this year? It's out of necessity, not necessarily like want, right? And what I mean by that is like I have a house in Washington. I'm moving to Arizona because of work, or and this isn't really the example I want to use, but I'm selling my house. I need to buy a new one because I'm getting a divorce. But more so the first example, I wonder if these like towns have like a new tech company coming through, or like a major manufacturer, like like Boeing or something, is like moving like a plant over to one of these towns. Because I also think, well, I know there's a small sector of people that still like look at the magazines for like listings of like homes. Like those are still popular to like go through a pamphlet and look at homes, right?
Right.
So I feel that like more advanced people or just technologically savvy people are using Zillow. You
posing that question made me think of another possibility. So what if they live in these towns and they're in the preliminary stages of wanting to move elsewhere, and they're looking to see what real estate's going for in their area?
Oh, so the reverse of what I thought.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it could be that. So there's a lot of reasons people usually have. When I go to listing appointments, I'm like, all right, how much do you want to list the house for? Because I know you've got a number in your head. What's up, Wade?
I read that like 3 times and then now I get it. Okay, cool.
People will have an idea of what because they've done this. They've looked on Zillow. They've looked up their own house on Zillow to see what, it'll give the zestimate of what it's based on Zillow's algorithm of what the house is worth. And then they also give like a range of what it's worth. So it could be that, so there's a lot of different reasons, but yeah, that's I just thought it was interesting that
it's really cool info, man. I definitely dig this for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then this is kind of a lead in. So this was just a headline that I wanted to share. Connecticut is close to New York City and less expensive. All right, there you go, Brian. That's
That's
an excellent
some
point.
local, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And Brian can attest to selling the snow blower. He knows all about getting rid of that snow shovel. Oh wait, that was go back one.
Oh, you want to go back one? Sorry, I thought
Yeah.
you're done with that. My apologies.
So this was just momentum building for 2024, and this is a headline that kind of leads into. I didn't really. So our final segment, we're going to talk a little bit about, the state of real estate and mortgage loans and that kind of stuff. And this is kind of a lead in for that. And for that segment, it's going to be a little bit more of us talking. I didn't really do slides for that segment, but this is a kind of a snapshot. I saw this pop up today, and this just came out like last week. But momentum building for 2024. Lower mortgage rates have boosted existing home sales, builder and realtor optimism, and even housing starts. And the thing that we have been talking about since day one, we just need more inventory. And that's so it's good news heading into 2024, but we're going to need some stuff to sell because the demand is definitely going to be there next year.
Yep,
So,
I agree.
so I was going to share, like, I was looking up. I like to kind of keep track of home decor trends and trends for 2024, and so I just wanted to share. I said, Ferd shares 3 stocks. I'll share 3 home related items, and then we'll kind of tag team this last segment.
Cool.
But 3 home decor trends for 2024, and I'd like to get your opinion on some of this stuff. I think the 3 that I chose kind of makes sense. But it's let's take a look.
Right. Oops. On section. Okay.
All right. So home decor trends for 2024. Outside influence. Now I really like this. And this was from a designer in Jacksonville, Florida, who pointed this out. Windows keep getting bigger and bigger, and we're letting the view and the light outside become our focal point rather than furniture. So people like views. They like natural light. They like views. So this is one of the trends that they're anticipate that we're going to see more of in 2024.
Oh, okay.
Is, more windows, bigger windows, and just more like. I like that title, outside influence, but yeah, that natural light and that view coming into play a little bit more in the next year.
Cool.
A shift towards neutrals. So we'll start seeing this was Andrew Howard in Jacksonville, Florida, designer. A shift towards neutrals. We will start seeing a turn towards more neutrals in 2024. So fabrics will become plusher and more inviting. They will be and they will be interesting enough that color and pattern won't always have to set the tone. So it's just like, we had talked about these, not really doing like funky colors for your rooms, but scale the color palette back and use your decor to kind of make accents. It's a lot easier to replace throw pillows than it is to repaint a room. Mm-hmm. So if you want to splash a color, use your accessories to kind of do that. So I think that's a good trend for that. And you can swap those out as those colors come in and out of style. You can swap out pillows and lamps and all that kind of stuff. And the next one kind of goes hand in hand with that as well. Fun-loving lampshades. So doing like interesting lampshades and lighting and stuff like that. And this was a designer in Birmingham, Alabama, who shared this one. Whether in a custom fabric or a simple paper or linen, this style of shade takes any lamp up a notch. So maybe kind of play around with those, try some different lamp shades. And there again, it's a lot easier to swap out the style than it is to repaint a room. And you can add make it kind of like a showpiece. So these were just 3 home decor trends for 2024. And You what do you think about those?
Man, I never thought of like, the light being a decoration in the home, quote unquote, right? Letting that light in. And I really like the whole like tones of the previous slide. I'm right there with you on that. And because yeah, it's a lot easier to I'm always about longer term with everything,
Sure.
right? Because I just don't want to. I hate painting, So
Well,
we.
look at men's fashion. Like
Mhm,
I really feel sorry for women because their stuff tends to go out of style more quickly than our stuff does. You
mhm.
know, so we can get a lot more use out of our clothing and hairstyles and
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. We get um a lot more, and
sim
maybe that feeds that
simplisticness.
yeah, maybe that
Yeah,
feeds that for us is like, yeah, I don't love painting. So
yeah.
why don't I just do something that's really basic and
Uh-huh.
allow the accessories to kind of be the focal point.
The
Um,
I like the idea that these slides have of where like you can switch out easier things to switch out to either lighten things up or to accentuate things. And the lampshades, man, I that kind of hits home with me because I don't. We have a lighting issue, not lighting issue, but we need new lights in our living room. And before there were these like lamps with like huge lampshades on top and just very old school 70s. And I can't think of something that will like take like all the stuff I see is like a little bland, but like in particular, like I like the one in the middle that has like that circular kind of square look, like the gold one. I think that's pretty cool, and it's got kind of a spring, kind of a live feeling. I think that would look good in our living room because we don't. It's very like plain right now, and that kind of would add. And it's just one little thing, right? Which is kind of the trend here too. It's really good stuff, man. I've liked a lot all the trend stuff or like decor stuff you've done since we started the show. And I'm not just saying this, like I feel like I've implemented a little bit of it into our home or plan on doing that later down the road. So I do take
well,
these
if
into consideration.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah.
And if I can save you some time, that's a win
Yeah.
win for us both. We got to look out for each other. So, but it's yeah, it's super simple. I mean, like that, you know, that green one in the center there with that, it's almost like it almost looks like a wicker or rattan kind of textured shade,
Yeah. Looks
and just
very
you put
Mad
it on,
Men
yeah,
color.
just put it on a table, and
Uh-huh.
that's a showpiece, and then implement some of those colors and other things. So yeah, I just like that. I mean, I don't think um people are still trying to kind of, I think people are wanting to kind of get away from even that, like that beige gray kind of, I that agreeable gray that I shared
Yeah.
one of the episodes.
Mhm.
I think people are even kind of wanting to get away from that and go into white
Mhm.
and really just blanking the palette out, and then it I think even that makes those accessories pop a little bit more too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I've seen that in a lot of listings around here. There's one right down the street, and the outside's beautiful, and they redid the interior and all that, but the whole house is white. And I was like, at first, I was kind of like, "Oh man, are they just trying to like, are they doing that because they want the new homeowner to kind of figure it out?" But then I was thinking that actually doesn't look bad, the way that they set it up and stuff. But
very clean, very soothing, but
Mhm.
it's not like I'm in a doctor's office soothing. It's more of
Yeah,
like just your home, that's your sanctuary. It's just no clutter, no, it's everything's just scaled back.
hmm
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that shakes out. I mean, they're trying to get rid of that color kind of somewhat, although builders around here are still using that agreeable gray quite a bit because it's just easy to do, and they do the whole house that color. So
yeah,
light trim with the agreeable gray.
yeah.
Um,
That's cool.
yeah,
I like it.
it's just a lot easier for them to do that. They're trying to get rid of that color, and they're trying to get rid of stainless appliances, and people just are like really grasping on to the stainless. They don't want to let it go because it looks so
Clean.
clean and like classy and like up like I don't know, maybe it looks a little more expensive or something. I don't know. Maybe it's rather than like a regular white or black appliance, like just a plain appliance, the
Hmm.
stainless kind of a little more pop. But
Yeah.
you know, some people like to just like I mean, you've been in houses where the it looks like it's all cabinets and then you pull
And
one
then
cabinet, it's
yeah,
the refrigerator, you know? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's all like blended in. So
I
that's kind of a neat kind
I
of neat.
feel I feel like those houses confuse the shit out of me
Oh
because
yeah,
and that's just me. Like I like the separation of like the fridge,
I do too.
and the
Yeah.
appliances, but that's just me.
But it
So,
seems fancy, you know. It's like the pot filler that we shared.
oh yes, the
The
pot
stuff,
filler, yes,
yeah.
yeah.
That's
I
you know
love
that.
that. I love that pot filler, man. If I had my stove set up against the wall, I wouldn't give a shit. I would totally do that,
Oh,
man. That's
you. I mean,
awesome.
you would have to use for soup and pasta every or soup or pasta every other night,
I
just
if
to use the
Yeah,
pot
just to
filler.
use it, especially if I had guests over, like, oh yeah, I gotta make soup today,
Hey, y'all come hang out in the kitchen while we listen to music, and you can
and I make
watch
this
me
soup.
show off my pot filler over the
Yeah,
stove.
yeah, exactly.
It does look classy though, man. It looks really high dollar.
It's and sorry to kind of hamper on this, but when someone here's another thing that it sucks like that. I mean, obviously you save your money to buy a house, right? But like typically you're putting like even 3.5% down on a home is a lot of money, right? Let's just use that's like on a $500,000 home, that's like 15 grand, just to round it off, or like 20,000 in down payment. That's a big chunk of change. So the second most important thing when you buy a house is like all the stuff you're gonna put in there. We bought a couch, after delivery and setup and all that stuff. It was like it ended up being $2,000 for it. That's a lot of money for a couch, right? But you need a couch, because we wanted a new couch. Um, and then like lampshades, for example, or just lighting. It's like $50 for one lamp. This is a cool example of like, oh, I can go to secondhand store, garage sale. There's a lot of DIY stuff that you can. I don't know if you could repaint that, but I'm assuming if you found something similar that was like working okay for like $1 and you like the look of it, not only is it cheap, but it's unique. Probably just something you could buy at Restoration Hardware, for example.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean,
Yeah.
change it's easy. So you theoretically you should get a lot more life out of your couch if you just update the accessories,
Hmm.
the throw pillows to to as the trends change and stuff like that. But that's exactly what I was gonna say is paint, find one and paint the base and get a really cool shade to go on the base of the lamp or something, paint it and play around and and have fun with it,
Yeah.
have fun with it.
I think, yeah, and especially like obviously you want to make it like all match, right? To a certain point. Like you probably don't want all these lamps, right, in like one area, unless you just made it work. I don't know, but you know, uh, it's saving money on the stuff that you don't have to spend brand new. That's like the best. And we live in a time and age where like you can figure out how to convert things to certain stuff. Like I converted my parents or my mom's old China hutch to a breakfast buffet. It's almost done, but that saved like $700 out the gate. And it's something that stays in the family too. A little different than what this here, but just saving $1, man. It's in these
Yeah, I mean,
times,
why and
So
why not do that if you have a piece
yeah,
of furniture that means something to you that's got some sentimental
significance.
value,
Yeah,
you repurpose it for something and use it, That's
yeah,
I really like that idea.
for
Yeah, that's
sure.
cool. All right, so this was your idea. This this was your
Well,
idea. This is the hook for our title of our slot of our show tonight. But just talking a little bit about housing outlook and why 3.5% rates are no more. So um, why don't we talk a little bit about maybe in reflection, what have we As you recall, what have we seen this year? What does the market look like this year? What have interest rates look like this year from your perspective as a mortgage lender?
Well, they're definitely a lot lower than they were in October. And in all honesty, I thought that was a healthy thing because it this is going to sound really weird. It drove a little bit of panic for people that what should we call it? It drove panic to people to be like, "Oh my gosh, I need to prepare or I need to call Fernando or I need to call Brad and really see like I need to get more information about this whole situation." I won't say crisis because it didn't even go that route. And I feel like a lot of people pulled back on their spending, which may, Kevin, it may have an effect on, fourth quarter retail. It definitely took away some clients from buying a house. They put it on hold or whatnot, which I still think is kind of a mistake for those people that did pull out because obviously a month later, 2 months later, rates are back down to where they were in May, June kind of deal. Um, I yeah, I
Well,
think
we saw record highs. I mean, not since the early 2000s, I think, have we
mhm,
seen rates get as high as they were. And what was the what was the highest you quoted
eight and
during
a quarter
eight
at
and a
par.
quarter?
Yeah, eight and a quarter, and I did not hear back from that person. But you know what it gave me an opportunity to is I was able to reach out to some people and say, "Hey, you talked to me in October and at the time you were very scared and you asked a lot of questions. Well, guess what? Rates are now 6%, 6.25% at par. Um, and I think you should replay again or you should think about it again." And tell you what, that's what they're doing. They're still motivated because they're not at this point. It's more of like, well, I'm only used to what I know, and they're not used to 3.5% rates. However, with that said, I have had people call in and say like, I'm not going to buy a house unless rates are 3.5%. And I said, okay, uh that's, I don't know why you're arguing with me, but um I think you're going to miss your window because that's never going to happen again unless
Barring
uh
pandemic level
crisis.
event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you what, right before 2019 was going on, rates were at like 4.5 to 5%, which I felt was still pretty low. But housing was slowing down quite a bit. There was still an inventory problem. And then the COVID hit, and I don't know if inventory really picked up. I mean, it's just refinances picked up really. Um, But even with the increase of rates to 8%, I still have people calling, and I think what you probably saw too is in the data you sent me or we've talked about in the podcast before, like, did you send me anything saying we had 8% decreases month over month or even 4% decreases? No, we had like a 0.5% decrease in price. It tightened supply even more. Um, which so it's like the two things that we've talked about on your side, inventory. I mean, you slapped the
From
shit
day
out of that
one.
baby from
Yeah,
day one,
from day
right?
one.
Me, on my side, unemployment. It's still, for my analysis, I think those are still to this day, and I'll say it again, the two most important variables if you want to segregate what to look out for. Forget rates, forget everything else. Um, Unemployment's still really low, so people are still able to afford. And even at 8% rates, I still have people calling 8% rates for a $500,000 home. Just curious, just out of curiosity. So it's, and I'm so passionate about this because there's so many people out there that are like, oh, um, rates are at 8.25, the housing market's going to crash, and it just didn't happen. Albeit it didn't, it didn't stay that high for very long, but You mean you sent me something like to where prices dipped like, was it like 1 or 1.5% month year over year? Or like it was a very small amount.
Right.
And
And we weren't sure if that was how much of seasonality played into that number as well, because it's like,
right, yeah.
there was a seasonality aspect of it too.
Mhm.
So that was a little different, but yeah, it's that was Ferd, that was like one of our first shows was
Mhm.
debunking that. I mean, we just got, you and I both had gotten so sick of seeing the news articles that said that it was imminent and all this, and foreclosures are gonna, get ready for that. And it's just like it just didn't happen. And we were saying that this whole time we've been doing this podcast was that, look, the data, and we shared the data, which, it's not somebody trying to make a name for themselves by tacking their name onto an article and trying to create fear and panic in consumers. But um we looked at the data, and it's like, I don't
Right there, my man Kevin, man, he
it's like,
knows.
we
Yeah.
looked at the data, and it's like, I don't see evidence that, and we literally looked at the conditions in 2008 and compared them to today. So if you're new to this and you're curious, go back and take a look at all of our shows are posted for you to view at your convenience on our YouTube channel, Sunset to South, where we looked at graphs and diagrams and crunched the data and really looked to show, like, this is why this is different.
Hmm.
And
And the other thing too, I mean, real life, man. Like you just said, you're finishing up a closing before the end of the year. I mean, I had 4 people calling in, like needing to get quotes, and one guy's trying to buy a fourplex, all that. He's meeting with the realtor today. It's December 27, 2023. And the one negative thing I've seen from these interest rate like deals is if you had a HELOC, yeah, you're probably hurting a little bit, right? That is an adjustable type of product that we offer. However, our underwriting standards for HELOCs they're pretty conservative. So it's not like we were approving debt to income over like 60%. I can't really talk about our lending standards, but they're pretty conservative, right? Um, and a lot of those people that took out those HELOCs, like, yeah, they're feeling the pinch a little bit, but I feel like the value that they use those HELOCs for, whether that be acquiring land somewhere or improving their home, they'll get it back eventually anyway. And that was more, again, of a need versus like a want kind of thing. At least the majority of the clients I dealt with, using opportunity and all that. So that's the one thing I would say is definitely hit negative to some people. The other thing I will say as far as employment, yes, unemployment's very low, but in the tech sector, they're just not hiring, or they're not hiring at all, or they're not hiring as much, or they're not hiring at all. So there's a little bit of a lull there. But I mean, it's just trimming out the fat of the lower rates that, I think this is the only political thing I'll say here. I honestly think the last injection of quantitative easing, or not QE, sorry, of injecting money into the system, that shouldn't have happened. But can't change that now. You can't complain about it, and you really can't. You have to look at the factual data like now. Just like my MicroStrategy call was off, or I would say my call was off. I would say I still think the CEO is garbage, but if I ever said, I honestly can't remember if I ever said to not invest in MSTR or MicroStrategy, I was wrong, but it was based off of findings that I found that were risky. So anyway,
and I
we're
still
going off
think
track.
it remains to be seen. We'll see.
We'll
We'll
see.
revisit this guy. We'll revisit this guy in a year and
I
see
know.
see how
I
he's
know.
doing. But yeah. So that's the thing from my perspective. Kind of year in review. It seems like one of the challenges for us, and it was kind of, I think it really toughened us a bit, was having to sift through all that information and really not having, I mean, at every turn we were like, hey, the Fed's reporting on, whether they're going to raise interest rates. And we went through a long stretch where it was every time they had an opportunity, they did. And when they didn't, they were reporting that, hey, we didn't this time, but that doesn't mean we won't next time. And it still suppressed the market, just the fear, maybe not fear is not the right word.
Hesitancy?
Yeah, to commit to anything positive. And then, I mean, literally our last show, the day of our show.
Oh my God. Perfect timing, right?
Yeah. I mean, they come out and say, hey, we're not going to raise rates to end the year. And we kind of anticipate maybe like 3 reductions next year. I saw a report that was probably a little more aggressive than that, but it was a third party.
Yeah.
But I would say, I guess we could count on 3 and kind of see how things shake out. But it's amazing what good news has done to our business and dude, I love the fact that you took a missed opportunity, not a missed opportunity, but where someone inquired and then kind of backed off. That's such a calling point now. I mean, that's a reason to get on the phone with those people now is because here's the challenge for like the way things sit now and going into 2024. The challenge that I see is obviously inventory is still a problem. It was from episode 1 all the way to now. Interest rates didn't really fix the problem. Interest rates going, you would think maybe if the volume had maintained, whether it be builders or whatever, if builders had maintained their normal production, then we could have made up some ground, and maybe we did slightly, but it's still a significant. I mean, I think here we're probably 2.5 to 3 month supply. Maybe that might be an aggressive estimate. And an average, so just an average healthy market. And I've mentioned this before, and you know this, but just for our viewers, an average healthy market is a 6-month supply of inventory. So that's the way they calculate that is if they went for 6 months and didn't build another house, that's how long it would take for the supply to dissipate.
Yeah.
6 months. So if we're at a 2.5 to 3%, it's going into the spring, we could not have enough. It could dissipate fairly quickly. So where that inventory comes from, I'm not exactly sure.
That's like the $1 million question, man. Or I'd say $1 billion question, honestly.
As predictive as we've been on this channel, we don't have that crystal ball yet to see. Now, I can say from my perspective or from my experience, I mentioned backstage, so I've got a buyer who jumped in into the market. I've been sending her listings for about a year or so, and she's like, okay, things are feeling secure with my job. And, so she's ready to pull the trigger. So we've got inspections on the house. We got her house under contract. We got the house that she's purchasing under contract, and we've got inspections tomorrow. So those folks who are, if you're renting and, those are the people that are going to be vying for, she's smart for doing it now. We'll be closed. I think it's January 15th is the closing date. So the issue is going to be when everybody who's waiting till spring comes around there'll be more choices then.
Screwed.
It's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Because everybody's, how many other people do you think have that same mindset? Most of them probably, most of the people that you talk to are probably like, well, let's just wait until spring. Let's get through the holidays. Everyone
that walked away is like, I'm going to wait till spring. And then I wouldn't say they're like for whatever reason they're doing it. And like I know like it's easy for me to say that because I don't have kids, and it's easy for me to be mobile, and I understand like sociological stuff that you don't have control over. But when it comes to like, okay, well, you're gonna be stuck in that 2-bedroom apartment, which is fine, but like obviously like you came, this is not, it's still not a buyer's market in my opinion, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it's really, if the projection of, and you just gotta look at, here's another thing to look at. I mean, just watch the S&P 500. If the S&P hits 5K and we're at rates of 6% still, or 5.5, because that's the next leg down right now. Dude, it's just gonna get worse as far as more buyers coming into the market.
Well, what happens if those people? So you're at 6.25. Let's say you're at 6.25, 6.5 now, whatever that rate is.
Mhm.
And all right, so it's going down. So yes, you would, had you bought the same house when it was at its peak this a couple months ago.
Mhm.
Yes, you've saved a significant amount of money by purchasing later, waiting to purchase. But if there are half a dozen people who want that house now and you waited, where's the money? How are you going to stand out from those other offers? Well, the typical way you do it is you pay over list price. So you've traded the,
Yeah.
the interest rate looks great now. It looks better now, but you've traded that for, where are you going to come up with 10 grand to make your
Mhm.
offer more appealing now? That's the real issue, is people don't have that money sitting around where they can, hey, we got to come over the top with it and and really make our offer stand out in the crowd. And I could, the buyer I got under contract here recently, we built in some closing costs so she could buy her rate down, and think the numbers support that price that she came in at. But I could have got you some stuff before. The time's coming again next
Mhm.
year where you're not going to be able to ask for anything to be fixed. That's going to be part of the competition is
It's
going to
it's
be.
it's gonna start creeping back to that, like there's no there's no buyer incentives, or they're gonna dry up because they're like, shit, instead of 3 people, I got 6 now, or
Yeah,
7.
you might do escalation clause. I've seen escalation clauses start to creep up where
Yeah.
I'll pay $500 over the highest offer not to exceed X
Mhm.
amount.
Right.
That's a thing.
And
That's a
wait, I mean, like that mentality right there is an example of what we're talking about. It's like, and this isn't for people that are in the market, right? Or like, or sorry, or actively looking or whatever. This is for the people that left the market and are gonna wait till summer. So like, just know that, and Wade's in kind of a different space. Like he owns his house and like he's good. But that, what Wade's example is of someone that is like, um, I'm going to jump back in with when it's 5.5%. I mean, and we're kind of killing a dead horse here, but like, uh, it's just a lot of numbers. Now, I will say on the positive side, and Brad, you may know more about this than me, but do you think that if rates do get to 5.5, 5.25, because that's kind of where I really want them to be completely honest, do you think that will spur people to sell their homes and get back into the market? So those type of clients?
So my other example is sellers that they're selling because I help them buy this house, and I actually showed the listing on here
Mhm.
as my featured home one week. But they're selling. I helped them buy that house 8 years ago, and they were going to buy new construction, cookie cutter, like built right on top of each other, and they're like, I feel like I'm suffocating. I can't go through with this. I said, well, we'll get out of that deal. Let me find you something where you can, you know, spread your wings a little bit, give you a little elbow room. So this house was on a 1.1 acre lot of land. So I bought them that, and now they're buying a house that's on like 18 acres of land. So this was a stepping stone for them to get to their real dream, which is to have real space. Like, I'm going to hunt on my land kind of space. That's where they're going with this. It's like 18, 19 acres. So those people could still say, all right, well, I've got equity in my house. This is not our real dream. Our real dream is the next house.
Yeah.
And so those people could get in the market. And I think that might be where our business is going to come from, is those folks who, look, this might be my last chance to realize our real dream,
Yeah. And that's kind of what my hope is for 5.25%, 5% rates, which is possible. The other thing too, I think for both of you and myself is like, we don't mention this a lot in the chat or the show. When rates start to get lower, the people that don't feel comfortable with down payment, or they make good money, or they maybe have lower credit, like the programs start to kind of pop up as well. So if I always tell people this too, that ask about it, like, well, I don't know if I'll qualify because I don't have any down payment. Well, I teach a first-time homebuyers class here in Washington, and we can help you with down payment. So if anyone in the chat knows anyone that is curious, or like Brad, I'm sure there's a lot of different programs in South Carolina, whether you know about them or not. I don't know of any because I don't work there, but yeah, there's always other resources of getting into a home. The toughest, we're just saying, like right now, the toughest thing is like obviously inventory is still an issue, and the fact that rates are lowering, it's pushing more people back into the market because they're still employed with pretty good jobs.
Yeah.
So
they're confident in their employment.
Yeah.
Where maybe they might have felt a crunch, or there've been some layoffs and they survived those layoffs, and now they're feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
So yeah, just have those conversations though. If you have questions as to whether or not you can, don't just assume you can't. I guess is to kind of summarize what you're saying. Don't assume you can't do it because you don't have the cash sitting around. Let's see. Let's explore some options. And I try to be creative with my line of work and what I do, and I know you do too. And so just initiate the conversation. It hurts nothing for you to discuss whether it's an option for you or not. So yeah, just if you're, I guess my prediction for next year is going to be
curious.
So I think 5 to 5.5% is the new 3 to 3.5%.
That's healthy. That's healthy. It's a healthy rate, right?
5's the new 3. So if you're waiting for 3, you're probably going to be a perpetual renter.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, dude. Rent is 100%. If you're waiting on, I'm not going to buy unless it's 3.5%. Well, rent is you're paying somebody's mortgage, just not your own. Get in something, start building your equity. I mean, if there's one thing the other thing we've discussed in depth here is that rate of that 3 to 5% is about what you can expect in appreciation as a homeowner.
Yeah.
3 to 5% annually. And the numbers we had a chart where we went all the way back to 1990 to today, and just to show, and we've in the 20 teens, we flew under the radar. We were under that. The prices were under that 4%. But my advice would be to start start paying start developing something for yourself. These people that bought their house 8 years ago, they've got some good equity in their house. They can realize their dream now. So have those conversations and do that. But I think, 5's the new 3. 5% is the new 3%. So if we're dipping down in the 5s, a lot of people are going to be getting back in the game. And don't wait until everybody, it's like FOMO, don't wait until everybody else is jumping in to buy houses to jump in yourself. I mean, maybe you can, you can still kind of get a little bit ahead of the game, and because otherwise, your agent and your lender are going to have to get real creative about how you secure a house. There's nothing more discouraging than have people write. I've had people at the heat of multiple offer, um, that time of multiple offers, having people like agents reaching out to me. Gosh, I really hope we get it. This is our sixth offer. We've been turned down 5 other times, and it's
Yeah.
like, I don't get paid for doing paperwork. I mean, I get paid when I get to the closing table. So I understand their frustration. Um, I think part of it is also, as agents, is we've got to share our honest opinion about what it's going to take. If this is the one, this is what it's going to take to solidify it as, for us to stand out in the crowd.
Yeah.
So Wade, I don't think I would sell my house now. I would just buy another house and rent the other. I like that idea, man. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Um,
and wait, if you're really serious about that, I mean, we could talk like in an individual level. I can't do loans where you're at, but I can at least, as a friend, and as a great contributor to like everything we do here, I'd be more than happy to sit down or talk it over FaceTime or whatever with you. If you're curious and want to get a head start on it, and I could recommend some stuff to you. And
yeah, we need to do another one of our Discord chats.
Yeah. I mean, I seriously would be like I would love to do that for you, man. If you're really curious and want to talk it over, at least you have an idea of like what is possible and what would be like the best kind of, because sometimes like, okay, like the rate makes sense and all that stuff to like me, but like to someone else, like, oh, I'm not comfortable with that. And that's okay. I can't force someone. I can only give the information. It's what you do with it. And I'll never say like, oh, they're an idiot for, leaving the market or like all that stuff. It's just like, man, if you're, I guess the other thing too is like, if you're trying to outsmart the market, there's dudes at desks 24/7 trying to outsmart the market, and they have access to way more information. You can lead a horse to water. Yes, I like that one. Wait.
That's very true. If you got any questions, I like that idea, because I think you said the house you're in now is paid for. I believe he said that previously. So that's great.
I mean, I've talked about this with you before, and I think this is strategy. If I was 23 all over again, I would totally do it. One guy, he actually ended up owning 2 different, a triplex and a duplex, or a fourplex and a triplex. But he was very mobile, and I wasn't working with him directly, but Wade says I only outsmart the popos.
Except for those couple of times.
Right, exactly.
I'm sure you got some stories where you didn't.
I kind of want to know the stories, but kind of don't.
I'm scared, man. You see what he shares willingly in public.
I know.
In the chat, so I don't know if I want to know his deep inner dark secrets.
I love it. But yeah, this guy, he bought a triplex out of college. Parents helped him out with a 3.5% down payment. He lived in 1 unit, ran out the other 2. After about 2 years, he refinanced in a conventional loan, so no more mortgage insurance and no more FHA loan. Well, he bought another triplex, moved to, he's making a little bit more money, moved to another triplex, rented out the unit he was moving out of. Now he's cash flow sensitive at like 25, or cash flow positive at like 25. Buys another FHA, 3.5% down, fourplex, because he's making a little more money and there's an extra unit. It actually didn't matter at that point. And then lived there for 2 years, refinanced, and then moved into his quote unquote like forever home at the time. But he had 7 units at 26, 27 years old.
I wish
yeah.
Man, I mean, that was not what I was thinking about at that age. And that's
no.
I mean, I do really admire people who have that, that foresight. I mean, there's one of my past clients has like, I think now he's got like 3 or 4 restaurants in town.
Mhm.
And he when all his friends were out partying, he was working in bars and restaurants learning the business
Yeah.
when he was in
Yeah.
college. And that's how he learned the business and started his empire. So
Yeah.
God, I
And
just didn't have that in me then,
yeah, Wade's right. I mean, it's never too late. Like, I mean, if Isela, my wife was like down for it, I wouldn't. I would think about it at least. And we actually were looking at a couple of duplexes and thinking of that. And it's not as uncommon to rent out, units as much as like, we think of. Anyway, it's a tangent I'm going off of, but yeah, there's the other thing about rates going lower is it's not only primary home buyers are going to go back in the market, but those investors are going to come back in too. So it's something else to think about. I think Brad and myself prefer to work with first time or like primary home buyers, but shoot, man, we'll eat whatever, we'll eat wherever, right?
Yeah.
But it's going to make it's going to make that investor loan more attractive. And for the people that not are only wanting to buy a primary home, those sharks out there, man, they're like, oh, I got some money, I can take some money out of my
Even more
home.
competition. Yeah.
It's just gonna flood the money. The money's gonna flow again with rates. I mean, a full percent more. I mean, that's what they're anticipating, 5.25%, 5%. So, anyway, next slide.
That's the end.
That's
This
the
was
end.
this was just us. I thought I'd try and drag one more Point Break
I
quote out of.
mean, you can drag them till the end of time, man. You know
Well, I
me.
don't know what this. The two that we've done are relevant. I don't know what Utah. Give me two. I don't know how relevant that quote
I
is
mean,
to.
give me two houses. I don't know, something like that.
Well, that's what I was going to tell Wade. Like, you could get super creative too, man, because you've got a paid off house that you want to rent.
He's
You
like
got
the dream borrower or like client for what he's trying to do. He's in a really good like area, and like how he's home or the value of his home, how he can leverage it in a safe way. Like I love that type of client.
use that equity to. Hey, maybe you
Yeah.
got two rentals and you're living in some place instead of one
Yeah.
rental. So you
Exactly.
could get like super creative with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
Um,
that it's the thing with and I'll just say this about like investing in real estate. It's really like it's also like a lifestyle kind of like um acceptance, I guess, if that's what the word you should use. But like, for that guy to own different duplexes, I mean, he had to move every 2 years and go through all kind of hassle of that, and then like he had to be a landlord, right? But he had that mindset, and he had that kind of like he had that idea in his head going into it. I think a lot of people like, I mean, shit, I moved a ton of times when I was in my 20s and early 30s. So I probably would have been down with that.
oh, you could have had a triplex and rented to your buddies next door or something,
Yeah.
and but it's just it seems out of reach for a lot of people, and I think that's probably a fairly common sentiment is that like, gosh, I don't know where that money's coming from to do that, and it's there
Hmm.
again. It's just having these conversations, and
Hmm.
talking to somebody like myself or Ferd and just seeing like, hey, is there any way it's something I've kind of considered for a while, but I don't know that it's something I can actually do. Don't be afraid to ask those questions and have those conversations. I mean,
Yeah.
there may be an opportunity for you out there. I don't have money to fix up a house. Well, there's an FHA loan that where they'll fixed up it's worth X amount, and they'll give you the money to fix up a house that needs repairs.
Yeah.
We were kind of looking at this for one of my clients, and it turned out she ended up finding something that didn't need that, but that would have been really interesting to explore that. But yeah, there's a lot of options out there.
And one other thing I wanted to touch on too is like, we talk a lot about housing, obviously, with Brad and me being a mortgage broker. There's also other ways to leverage your investment portfolios too, to also grow your real estate portfolio. Maybe you want to move some of your portfolio money that you've done so well on your 401k and buy your first home. You can use up to 10,000, I think, at this point as down payment without for a first time home buyer. And that's tax free. You have to prove that it goes towards the purchase of a new home. You can take a loan out on your 401k for a down payment if you prefer to do it that way. On your Roth IRA, there's also, I don't know the exact rules, but there are, if you grow your Roth IRA, you can use a certain amount up in your Roth IRA to also help with your down payment. So I think, universally this shows about not some saving money, obviously, but like a lot of it's like, trying to get you to that next stage, or just, whether that be expanding your real estate portfolio or just, expanding your financial literacy and your retirement too. We're trying to hit on all those cylinders, for everybody to basically say like, well, I can't do this. Well, you actually can, because you have this. And I hope that's what everyone gets out of the show.
Yeah. So we're looking at lower interest rates next year, still low inventory next year, probably increased competition next year. And I'll be interested to track where our inventory comes from. And that's something I'm sure we will be on top of. And what are your cliff notes of what are 3 things you anticipate for next year?
I think unemployment's going to be just as low. Our homie Mike was talking about, going to election year. Is there a little bit of volatility with uncertainty? If unemployment stays low, that's going to be kind of a wash, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's a consistent factor, along with lower inventory, that unemployment still hasn't hit a snag. If unemployment starts to increase, then yeah, I probably would pivot back a little bit on our show and say, yeah, prepare for maybe not making an offer on something, just whatever. What kind of makes me, I've been reading also articles about how rent is actually like more affordable than buying a home for the first time, like so many years. And yeah, I guess that's true in some areas, but what I would caution people is that, like baseball, those numbers are very regional. So that might be true in like, and I don't know, I'm just picking them in a random state. It might be true in Idaho because of the spike in real estate in those areas. But in like Seattle, I would say that, yeah, it's cheaper to rent a 1-bedroom apartment versus a 3-bedroom house, but you're still living in a 1-bedroom apartment that you're paying to some investment corporation or what have you.
Just don't read the headlines and assume it applies to you. I mean, there's still the aspect of tax incentive for being a homeowner. While it's not huge, it's something, and the government doesn't like to give a lot of their money back. So you may as well, start building that, that investment for yourself. And I still just love the idea of not paying somebody else's mortgage.
Yeah.
That kills me. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Like we were saying, don't be afraid to, there are no stupid questions. Don't be afraid to have conversations. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because fear causes hesitation, and hesitation causes your worst fears to come true.
I can like hear Bodie saying it, and I'm just like, yeah, he's so right. He's so right.
I couldn't tell you how many times I end up watching that movie after we get done talking about stuff. And dude, I saw the other day that a couple of years ago, the surfboard he used in the movie sold. It was like $12,000 or something.
Oh my God, I would have taken a HELOC out and bought it.
Yeah, it seems like it was super cheap for what it was. I mean,
he's dead. He passed away, so that's even more so. And
then it was a heritage auction or something.
That's so awesome, man. Yeah. Well, cool. I guess that's our show. We're 2 hours into it. We got some really great, comments and all that. Wade, yeah, man, like seriously, like if you want me and Brad to just chime in and at least help you out, I mean, it's the least we can do for all you do, or anyone, in the chat. Like, honestly, like, you can hit us up in the Discord, or you can hit us up like on Instagram. I've got several emails from a lot of people, and not just talk about mortgages, but just like your financial plans for like, retirement or whatever. And I can help as much as I can, or at least refer you to someone who may know a better answer. But man, I had a fun. This was a fun wrap up to the year. We'll keep this going through 2024. That's for sure.
Definitely, yeah.
And yeah, man. Any other closing thoughts, Brad?
No, just looking forward to. I've really enjoyed us doing this, and it's been. I learned something every single week. That I walk away with something I didn't know a lot about, and I feel a little better for having been a part of it, and hopefully the viewers do as well. That's the whole point, and you've said it a number of times. I mean, this is the we've got a guest, our first guest on the
our first intruder. Or he wants his 15 seconds of fame. But
there you go. But it's it's something we're both passionate about, and it's so it's nice to have folks in the chat and watching and asking questions and offering their insight. So we appreciate you guys and look forward to continuing that in 2024 and keeping this thing growing. So like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, click the notification bell. We're like, right now we're every 2 weeks, but click that notification bell and you'll get an update reminding you when we're going to go live. So yeah, we appreciate you guys though.
Yeah, and there's more stuff you guys like have questions on, like definitely ask in the chat, like, oh, you got me down this rabbit hole about AI stocks. Like, what about this stock? What do you think of that? I'll give you my honest opinion and whether I don't know shit about that stock or yeah, I think that's a great opportunity. And yeah, just trying to help out as many people as possible. If you have, and again, if you guys have questions on like this past show today, like more about like, what do I do to set up a Roth IRA? Or like, what do you mean by this and that? Like, maybe hit me up privately or Brad. We can go into more depth about your questions there too. But yeah, all great stuff today. I appreciate everyone's time and Happy New Year and all that good stuff too. So
Happy New Year. Thanks.
All right. Take care, everyone.